everybody, it's me, Alexa, and today we're going to be talking about the 2010 Telugu film VEDAM. This film is directed by Krish and stars Allu Arjun, Anushka Shetty, Manoj Manchu, Manoj Bajpayee, Saranya Ponvanan, Nagaya, and many other individuals. This is like an ensemble film. There's a lot of main characters with like different stories. So it's kind of like an anthology. Of multiple stories going on, and we get to see all of them and how they intertwine, etc. Before we jump into this review, I got two things to say to y'all. One, we got merch. It's super cool. This is one of it, little sharkadoo. Very cool, and I'm a big fan of it, and it is available now at store.greatwhiteandco.com. Final thing, this is a spoiler-free review. Feel free to keep watching even if you haven't seen it. So this was my second time actually watching the film. I watched it for the first time last year, April 2020. I thought it had been longer than that. That's still over a year ago that I watched it for the first time. And I really loved it the first time that I watched it. I was like, this is insane, this is awesome. I really loved it. And the second watch, I still enjoyed it a lot, but it definitely was not as amazing as the first watch, which was a little disappointing to find out, as it always is, but it still had a lot of good things going for it, so let's break it down. So to start off with the story, I mean, it's a very intriguing story. It actually follows 5 different characters, as I was starting to say earlier, and we see how all their paths go. They all have very different missions and flaws and obstacles in their path that they are working around, and it's really intriguing to watch these 5 different people develop, as well as the people around them, because each story, you know, they have like friends and such that they're with, who go through their stories with them, and it's this really just engaging story about people and what they do for certain situations. So all of them have this big obstacle that they're facing, and they all have different ways they need to go about getting around this obstacle. I think one of the reasons that it wasn't as impactful the second watch as the first one was that there's a lot of surprises that happen in this. Like, a lot of things that you don't expect to happen. So in movies like this, where it has a lot of those moments that you don't see coming, normally in order to make it really great on the second watch, like the same level, it has to have a lot of little things like that, little hints and clues to lead up to all those surprises. But due to the formatting of the story, it doesn't have much of that, which it works still well with the storytelling. It doesn't need something like that, but that's why it makes it not quite as engaging the second watch, because there's no cool new things that you're realizing in that second watch, really. It's just reaffirming all the cool things that you remember watching the first time. The ending is definitely still the best part of the film. It's such, I mean, even rewatching it, if you've seen it, you know. If you haven't, go watch it. The ending is extremely emotional. It's just really well done. Overall, I love everything about how the ending is formulated. It's just great. The score, the acting, the written dialogues, etc. Just the pacing of it, it all works really well to create this great, huge climax there at the end with great messages for all the characters as we finish off their stories. So one thing that's intriguing about these 5 characters is almost all of them have a big character flaw that is one of the big reasons for their obstacles. And not all of them do. There's one character that doesn't really have a flaw in their person. They just, the situation they're in is the obstacles. But most of the characters do have a flaw. And the one thing that I find really powerful about this film is that it makes me care about the characters even if I don't necessarily agree with all their actions. Like the character of Cable Raju, who's played by Allu Arjun, and the character of Vivek, who's played by Manoj Manchu, both of those characters I'm not a big fan of for different reasons, because they have their own, you know, they're very different characters from each other. But their plights that they go through, like especially the start, Allu Arjun's for most of it, their obstacles and plights that he has, and the initial plights that the musician have, are kind of like their own fault, you know? And the way that they go about it, I found to be quite unlikable. But by the end of this movie, I care about those characters, because they show growth and they show this dynamic change. And it's really just well done, and like to recognize that these characters have their flaws, but they're human. I think this is really a compliment to Krish as a director. I've only seen a couple of his films so far. I've seen this, Gamyam, and Kanchi. Almost mispronounced that. Gamyeon I really loved, and Kanchi was good. It wasn't one of my favorites, but I really appreciated how it was done. But Gamyeon also has this with the characters, where I think Chris just does a really good job of creating humans on screen. And so therefore, even if maybe you can't fully connect with our situation, like Anushka's character, you know, she has a lot of things that probably aren't that connectable to people. And so, you know, despite that, you can still connect with the fact that they're human and they have flaws, and like the base level of why they're doing what they're doing, you can understand. And that allows you to just connect with the movie and be engaged with these characters because you want to know what happens to them. And that's not an easy feat, especially when you have these 5 very different characters and very different storylines happening. And I think Krish just did such a great job of telling all those stories and having them all come together at the end. And Krish also did, of course, write it alongside direct it. I don't think I said that at the beginning. So I feel like those are the 2 biggest things about this movie that make it so enjoyable. The story, how it's woven, and also the acting, bringing that to life. It all just works together to create this really compelling tale. Now, despite the movie being really great, it's not perfect. And one thing that I found interesting is because the music is done by M.M. Keeravani, who did Bahubali, he's done many other films, but the background score in the movie I thought was great, like the music in the background of scenes, etc. But the songs themselves I just wasn't a huge fan of throughout. Most of them worked, like, you know, of course there's going to be songs because there's literally a musician in a band, that's one of our storylines, so they have some songs, and there's a song with Anushka at one point, and all of those kind of made sense with the story and I think worked well. But then they have 2 more like Mas style video songs in it with Alu Arjun, which of course, you know, I love Alu Arjun, I love his dance, and I love watching his video songs, but they didn't quite fit in the movie the way that the others did. Like, the others also were kind of breakaway, but they made sense with the situation. Like, it was the band practicing or the band playing a audition, you know, and so you have like, and then Anushka's like, she was doing a performance and it made sense. But Alu Arjun's were just kind of like these breakaway, full-on, disengaged from the story video songs. And I don't think it fully worked with this film because the rest of it was so, like, grounded. And while you can have a very grounded, serious film with video songs and it can work really well, and that's why those other 3 songs I think worked really great. But, I don't know, those 2 films just felt a bit disconnected from the rest of it. And I also just wasn't a huge fan of the songs, so maybe that played into it. I think they were good, they're just not really my style. They were enjoyable to listen to, but none of them are my favorites, which is why I think I actually forgot it has so many songs. Like, when I remembered the movie, I was like, they had like barely any songs in it, and then rewatching, I was like, oh hey, another song, oh, another. Because I hadn't really re-listened to them much, because normally whenever I watch a movie, I then like listen to the songs and stuff, because they're so fun. If I like any of them. But sometimes, you know, you just don't like the songs in a movie, or sometimes you only like some of them. It happens, and I didn't dislike any, I want to be very clear. They were all good songs, they just weren't my favorites, personally. Yeah, the songs were fine. The background music was really great for the background score, especially, again, in that ending scene, which is the best part of the whole film. Don't skip ahead to it, though. You gotta watch the whole thing. Don't skip around. You gotta watch the whole movie, make it to the end. And you gotta have that build up and story with it in order for it to have its full effect. So yeah, the main reason you watch this movie is for the story and the acting, I would say. It's just delivered so well and so well woven that that's what makes this film engaging, and then that ending is such a huge build up and so much happens that it's a very, like, well kept off story. Like, you aren't left wanting more, but you aren't also left with, like, you know everything, you know? And it has this really good balance of just telling these 5 stories and bringing them to an end for you so you feel satisfied by the end of the film. And that is why I am still giving a good rating. I know I did give it the Megalodon rating whenever I did my Shark Meter Explained, but I'm actually going to move it down to Great White because it's still amazing, as I said. But on that second watch, it just was not as enjoyable. And I think in order to get that Megalodon tier, you know, it gotta be the kind of movie you can rewatch and still get that same level of excitement and enjoyment from it. And sadly, I just didn't have that on the second watch through the film. While it was still great, it just wasn't that extra level of amazing. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for Krish as a filmmaker from the films I've seen so far, and I want to see some more of his films for sure. Let me know if you guys have any suggestions down below. I really like the way that he tells stories, and they feel very different and unique to me. So it's really enjoyable. I'm hoping the rest of his films prove to have that same quality to them, but I've enjoyed the ones I've seen so far. And make sure to leave me some suggestions for other ones, and also leave all your thoughts on this film down below in the comments. All right. Thank you all again so much for watching this review. If you enjoyed it, also hit that like button and subscribe, and check out our merch link down below. And yeah, I hope you all are staying safe out there and have an amazing day, guys. Bye!